This is your Living Faith TV.
And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food." Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to be making some quick and easy appetizers. You know, sometimes you just want a little nibbly bit, for lack of a better term, or maybe you're having a get-together or a party and you want to have different things set out for people to eat before maybe the main course or as the main course. So we're going to just be doing some quick and easy but yet hearty appetizer dishes. The first one we're going to make is basically a blue cheese toast point, really kind of name for it. I've got here half of a loaf of Italian bread. Now, you could, if you wanted the pieces to be bigger, you could just cut them, you know, in half, or you could just use a baguette. I didn't have a baguette today. I have an Italian loaf. So we're going to cut this in half. Or again, if you want them to be bigger, you can have them or leave them whole. And you want to kind of cut it, serrated knife, I don't know, maybe ½ inch thick. You don't want them wafer thin, but you don't want them too thick either. So I'm just going to cut these in half. You know, at a party, honestly, the appetizers are most of the time my favorite thing. I love to just nibble on lots of different things. So this is great for, you know, maybe you're throwing a get-together, a party, or a shower, a baby shower, or a wedding shower, or something along those lines, or Mother's Day, you know, any kind of a get-together. This would be a great little thing to make for tea. Maybe you're having an afternoon tea. This would be a great one to serve at that. And I'll just do half for today. Let's just put this other half over here. Now, I have in this bowl some softened butter, about ½ a stick. Use real butter. Then about 4 ounces of cream cheese, some almonds or walnuts, whichever you want. Any kind of nut is fine. I just happen to have the almonds here. And then some freshly chopped parsley. I like the Italian leaf. I'm not a big fan of the curly leaf parsley, but I do really like the Italian leaf. You do not have to get all those little stems out, just if they're big. You know, it's okay. They have flavor. It's just a textural thing, so we'll just leave it at that. You want some freshly chopped parsley, if you have it. If you don't have it, you can leave it out. It's okay. Alrighty, chop it and then take your knife. Remember our rule, one end on the board, and then move the knife to chop. And I'm going to need this in 2 recipes, so I'm actually going to chop more than what I need here and use the other in the other recipe. Okay. You want it to be minced, you know, sort of fine, but yet you want to be able to taste it and know what it is. I'm going to remind you again, when you're buying parsley, the flat leaf parsley, read the little tag on there. Make sure it's not cilantro. 2 entirely different herbs and 2 entirely different flavors. I mean, obviously, if you wanted to use cilantro, you could, but I don't. So I'm going to use half of that in here, and then I'm going to save the other half of this for another recipe. So I'll just put it over here to the side. So we're going to need it in a minute anyway. And you want to stir all of that together. Your blue cheese, your butter, your nuts. I'm using almonds, but you could use whatever. And the parsley. You could make this ahead. If you didn't want to use blue cheese, you could use feta. or even, you know, cream cheese if you wanted to, but the blue cheese adds a tang. I really like blue cheese. I like all cheese. I really do. I like all kinds of different cheeses. We're gonna use feta in another dish in a few minutes. All right, I made more than what I need because this would go for that whole loaf, but just for time's sake, we're gonna just do half. You can use a little knife or you could use an offset spatula, whatever you have, and then just spread some of this on each piece of bread. Now you could toast this ahead if you wanted to. I don't like my bread all the way toasted through. I like it to be more soft. So I don't toast mine, but if you wanted to, you can. It's gonna toast a little bit in the oven. You want your oven at like 350, 375, something like that. We're just gonna put this on the bread. You could use a baguette if you wanted to. You could use brioche. Brioche bread would be really good. You could even use the little, a lot of times in the deli department, they will have the little, they're about that wide and about that long, the little tiny little sandwich breads. You could use those if you wanted. You could use any kind of a bread. You could use tortillas. You could use anything. Because it's just the medium to get the spread on. Okay? And you don't have to cover the whole thing because this is gonna melt. The butter's going to melt in the oven. And it will spread a little bit on its own. Okay, I like to pile it on there. Now remember to line your sheet pan. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. You know, it just makes it easier. Life is just too hard to have too much to do. Any way you can make it a little easier, I say do it. Okay, come on, dear. Smells so good. Now I'm gonna put this in the oven. It only needs to bake about 5 minutes, really, 5 or 6 minutes. Just long enough to get the butter melted and everything ready to go. So let's get this in the oven that I have preheated here. All right, it takes about 5 minutes and you will have a wonderful, easy little blue cheese toast point. I'm gonna clean up, get set up for the next one. We're just gonna keep an eye on that. I'll be back in just a minute and we will start the next recipe. All right, now our bread is in the oven and we are gonna be making a cheesy spinach pinwheel. Now, this one is a little more hearty. This could be served alongside a salad for a light lunch. It really is very, very good. Now, I'm using puff pastry, just frozen puff pastry that has thawed, but you could use croissant dough, just roll it out into, open your container of croissant dough, pat the little holes together to make 2 rectangles. Either one will work. I've done it both ways and it's equally good. It's just I have puff pastry handy, so that's what we're gonna use. All right, now I want to just roll this out a little bit to tighten up those seams. Okay. If you've never had the frozen puff pastry, really is very, very, very good. Lightly flour your cutting board and roll it out, okay? Another lined baking dish. And we're gonna use the garlic and herb pre-mixed up cream cheese, a light layer. It's easier to spread if it's at room temperature. I'm using an offset spatula, but you could use anything you wanted. Got to check my bread in the oven here in just a second. Spread this out and we'll take a look in the oven. because it does take that just a minute to cook through. We just want this to be in one even layer. Okay. You'll need about 1/4 of the container. You could use any flavor cream cheese that you wanted to. Okay. Now, just lay that out there. Let's go back here and check this real quick. See if it's done. It's about another minute. All right. Now, on top of our cream cheese, try to get this all the way to the edges. Okay? If you can, just a light layer, because we're going to roll these up. You don't want too much. All right. Now, on top of that, we're going to place some spinach leaves, just on like the lower half, just raw baby spinach. Okay. Just in an even layer across the bottom. And then we're going to take some ham, whatever kind of ham that you like. And we're going to just put a layer here of the ham. Whatever you like is fine. You could use prosciutto if you wanted to. That would be absolutely delicious. And I'm just going to cover the whole surface. And then you roll it up. Just start at the bottom and gently roll it. Okay. Tuck your ham in there. You can use a little bit of water or egg wash to wet that, to seam it together. Let me tuck this ham in there just a little bit tighter. Okay, just kind of pinch that together to seam it, and then turn it up. Now, I think our bread is done. Let me grab that out of the oven. I do not remember where I put my, I'll just use this, my pot holders. Oh well, we'll use this. Yep, perfect. It just needs to melt and toast up just a little bit. Let's just let this set for a second. All righty. Now, you want to cut this in half. All right. Half again. And then cut each quarter. Place it cut side up. You'll have 8. This one will be a little bit wonky, but that's okay. That's the end piece. I don't want to waste it. That'll be the cook's treat. Okay. Cut side up. And we're going to bake these for about 10 minutes in the same 375-degree oven until the puff pastry cooks through and is golden, and it'll be delicious. I'm gonna take a quick break, and when I come clean this up, when I come back, we're gonna get started on yet another recipe. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our spinach roll-ups are in the oven, and we're going to start on a Greek feta cheese appetizer. I have the other sheet of puff pastry because puff pastry comes 2 sheets in a package. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to unfold it, let it thaw overnight in the refrigerator, and then unfold it and roll it out just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Okay? Now, we are going to cut this into approximately 3-inch squares. I'm not a perfectionist, but you know, you do want it to be squared off. So I am gonna cut a little bit of the jagged edges there. So I want it to be even. All right. And that looks basically into thirds. You want 3-inch squares. Okay. If you want to measure it, feel free. I don't want to measure it. Okay, and then each one of these into probably 4 pieces. Okay. I'll show you what we're going to do here in just a minute. All right, they do not have to be perfect. You want them approximately the same, but I'm not a perfectionist with this stuff. You see, that one's way bigger, but that's okay. Now, I've got 1 egg that I have put about a tablespoon or so of water. I'm gonna beat this, and I'm gonna put about half into this bowl. I'm gonna keep a little bit out so that I can brush the edges to seal them. All right, I'm gonna keep a little bit of that out. That's plenty. Then I have the other chopped parsley that I chopped just a minute ago, and I have some feta cheese. All right. Just gonna stir that together, that's it. You could add a little bit of pepper if you wanted. Feta's quite salty, so you really don't need any salt. If you wanna put a little pepper, you can, and I think I do. All right, another baking sheet lined. Okay, kind of crumble. If your feta is in bigger chunks, you want to kind of crumble that in there a little bit, okay? Now, take your pastry brush into the rest of that egg and run it along the edges, okay? And then take a spoonful, just a little bit. You don't want to overfill these. Just a little bit of that. Put it in kind of center, more a little bit maybe to one side. Fold it over and seal the edges, okay? You can take your fork and seal it. All right, and then place it on the baking sheet. Basically what you're doing is making a little triangle. Okay, so I like to just get me in a little assembly line going. If you don't want to use feta cheese, you could use cheddar, you could use any kind of cheese you wanted, Gouda, anything really, whatever you like. Could use blue cheese. You could add some chopped nuts to this, some little pine nuts would be good, or almonds or walnuts, finely chopped, would be delicious in that. Whatever you like. If you wanted to add some other herbs to it, you could add some thyme, would be good. Oregano would be real good with the feta, because Greeks use a lot of oregano in their cooking, and this is kind of a Greek. Lemon, a little lemon would be delicious in this. You really can take this recipe and springboard into what you want. Okay? Now, I'll do those others in just a second here. Put a little bit of your filling, don't overfill. We gotta remember to check our little oven going here. We've got those other little puff pastries in there. You gotta learn to multitask. You gotta learn to have things, get more than one dish going at a time. Especially if you're cooking in front of a camera. This show's a lot of fun to do. It really is. I'll never forget when the very first program that we taped. You don't see that because we don't air it. Oh my goodness, I was so nervous. My hands were literally shaking. Found my pot holders, by the way. Let's see how we're doing. Nope, They're not done. They need about probably 4 or 5 more minutes. You want them to be golden brown, okay? So I'm gonna fold those over. And it's okay if, like in that one, some of it's squeezed out. It's perfectly fine. Not a problem. That one's a little full. So let's kind of take a little bit of that out. If you need to stretch it over the filling, you can. That's fine. Okay. Let's get this going. I want to show you how to make a quick, easy dip too, because there's a really good olive oil dip that you can use. It's great with pasta if you're having an Italian night. Ooh, so good. Okay. All righty. What you see me doing, this is real time. I don't have these prepped ahead. I don't have another tray of them over there done that we're doing the swap out. This is real time, so it takes a few minutes. I don't have a staff of people behind the scenes prepping everything. You're watching me do this, and I like to do it that way, honestly, because I think that really shows you that, you can do this. I hear from people all the time that tell me how they've learned to cook by watching this program. And that really thrills my heart, because that's what I want. I want you in your kitchen cooking. I got a little anxious with a couple of these fillings, and it's just a little bit much. So let's take some out. All righty. Got 4 more here. We might just have to move on. It's really important that you seal these edges, that you do something in this one to seal them, either like the little pastry that I'm doing, the little pastry brush with some egg and your fork. It's very important that you seal this in. Okay, I think that's enough. We'll call that one done. Let's put this one. No, you know what I want to do? Let's brush a little egg over top of the rest of these. So I really want you to see this next. It's quick, just takes about a minute. We'll brush a little egg on here and get these in the oven. They're gonna bake for about 15 minutes. Alrighty, now real quick I want to show you a dipping sauce for just some sliced bread. I've got here some rosemary, some red pepper flakes, a little bit of dried basil, some salt and some garlic pepper. That's it. It's so simple. I'm just gonna kind of blitz this a little bit. This is actually a coffee grinder, but I use it for spices. I just want that rosemary kind of cut a little bit finer. Ah, perfect. All right, this is just some extra virgin olive oil. This is one time you really do want to use the good stuff. And a couple of tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and that's it. This is so good with just some bread. If you don't want to add the balsamic, you can leave it out, but I personally like the balsamic. Pour it into a little ramekin, and then just take your bread and dip your bread right down in there, and that's it. Alrighty, now everything is done. These are the little Greek feta appetizers. They just puff up and they're golden and they're just so, so good. These are our spinach and ham pinwheels, baked pinwheels. I used puff pastry because I had 2 sheets. If you don't have puff pastry, you could use the croissant dough that you get in the dairy section. You could use the croissant dough for either one of these recipes. But this one has the ham and the garlic and herb cream cheese, the spinach rolled up, so good. This is the little appetizer that we made with the almonds and the blue cheese and the parsley and all of that. And this is our delicious little herb dip that you can just take your bread, any kind of sliced bread, dip it in there. You could warm the bread if you wanted, however you want to do it. These are just some quick and easy appetizer recipes for your next gathering, whether it be a holiday or a party. This one, honestly, if you wanted to serve that as a light lunch with a green salad, would be absolutely delicious as just a light lunch. Thank you for joining with me. Try these recipes, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia, 24212.
There are those who dedicate themselves to a sense of honor